England, 1483. A kingdom holds its breath. King Edward IV, a charismatic and formidable ruler, lies on his deathbed. His reign, though marked by the brutal Wars of the Roses, had brought a semblance of stability. But with his passing, the fragile peace threatens to shatter. His heir is young Edward, Prince of Wales, a boy of merely 12, and his younger brother, Richard of Shrewsbury, Duke of York, only 9. Two children thrust onto the precipice of power, their futures as uncertain as the shifting allegiances of the English court. The weight of a crown, too heavy for such young shoulders, was about to descend. Their mother, Queen Elizabeth Woodville, a woman of ambition and many enemies, knew the dangers that lurked in the shadows for her sons. The court was a viper's nest of factions, each vying for influence, each with their own agenda. The Woodville family, having risen to prominence through the king's favor, was particularly resented by the established nobility. Into this volatile mix stepped Richard, Duke of Gloucester, King Edward I's younger brother, a renowned soldier, a man of proven loyalty to his late brother, or so it seemed. By Edward IV's will, Gloucester was named Lord Protector of the realm, tasked with guiding young Edward V until he came of age. Initially, this appointment was met with a degree of relief. Gloucester was seen as a strong hand to steer the ship of state. He moved swiftly, intercepting the young king on his journey to London and escorting him to the capital. Queen Elizabeth Woodville, sensing danger, sought sanctuary in Westminster Abbey with her younger son Richard and her daughters. Young Edward V was lodged in the Tower of London. At the time, the Tower was not solely a prison, but also a royal residence, a fortress, and a traditional lodging for monarchs before their coronation. It was presented as a place of safety, a secure location for the young king to prepare for his reign. Soon after, Gloucester, through a combination of persuasion and pressure, convinced Queen Elizabeth to release young Richard, Duke of York, into his care, arguing that the brothers should be together and that the young king needed his siblings' companionship. So, the two princes were reunited within the formidable stone walls of the tower. They were seen playing in the gardens, sometimes waving to onlookers from the windows, but as weeks turned into months, the sightings became less frequent. A sense of unease began to permeate the city. The coronation of Edward V, initially planned for May, was postponed, then postponed again. Whispers started to circulate. Whispers about Gloucester's ambition. Whispers about the legitimacy of the late King Edward IV's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville. A clergyman, Ralph Shaw, preached a sermon at St. Paul's Cross, publicly declaring that Edward IV's children were illegitimate due to a supposed pre-contract of marriage Edward had with another woman, Lady Eleanor Butler, before he wed Elizabeth Woodville. This claim, whether true or a convenient fabrication, provided Gloucester with the pretext he needed. Parliament, under duress or conviction, accepted this narrative. An act, Titulus Regius, was passed, officially declaring Edward V and his siblings illegitimate, thus barring them from the throne. With his nephews declared bastards, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, was proclaimed the rightful heir. On July 6, 1483, he was crowned King Richard III of England. The two young princes, once the hope of the nation, were now obstacles, inconvenient reminders of a deposed line. After the summer of 1483, Edward V and Richard, Duke of York, were never seen alive again. They vanished from the historical record, swallowed by the silent, imposing tower. What happened to them? Did they die of illness? Were they spirited away to safety? Or, as many suspected then and now, were they murdered? The disappearance of the princes became an immediate scandal, a dark stain on Richard III's reign. Rumors of their murder spread like wildfire both in England and across Europe. Many pointed the finger directly at King Richard III. He had the motive, to secure his throne. He had the opportunity, the princes were in his custody. And he certainly had the means. His detractors painted him as a ruthless tyrant who would stop at nothing to maintain power. Sir Thomas More, writing decades later but drawing on contemporary accounts, famously depicted Richard III as ordering their smothering. However, Richard III never publicly acknowledged their deaths, nor did he produce them to quell the rumors, which arguably damaged his reputation, more than a confirmed, albeit tragic, natural death might have. This silence only fueled further speculation. Some theories suggest that Henry Tudor, who defeated Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485 and became King Henry VII, might have had them killed to eliminate any rival claimants, assuming they were still alive when he took the throne. Others propose that a powerful noble, perhaps the Duke of Buckingham, who initially supported Richard III but later rebelled against him, could have been responsible, possibly to discredit the king. The mystery deepened in 1674, nearly 2 centuries later, when workmen at the Tower of London undertaking renovations discovered a wooden chest buried beneath a staircase. Inside were the skeletons of 2 young children, roughly corresponding to the ages of the princes. By order of King Charles II, these remains were interred in Westminster Abbey, proclaimed to be those of Edward V and Richard, Duke of York. However, without definitive DNA testing at the time and modern attempts being complex and debated, absolute certainty remains elusive. Were these truly the lost princes, or a convenient discovery to close a chapter of history? The fate of the princes in the Tower remains one of England's most compelling and tragic historical mysteries. Were they victims of a ruthless uncle's ambition, pawns in a deadly game of thrones, or did they meet some other unknown end? The stones of the Tower keep their secrets well. Their story serves as a chilling reminder of the brutal realities of power struggles in medieval England, and the vulnerability of innocence in the face of unbridled ambition. The lost princes echo through history, their silence speaking volumes about a dark chapter that continues to fascinate and horrify. What do you think truly happened to them? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe,